Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Carlton Wrap Podcast. Today, I'm joined by special guest Ari Stamatakos. Welcome, Ari. Glad to have you on the show. Just want you to give us a bit of an introduction about yourself and what you're doing at the moment.
Thank you very much for having me, first of all. But so I'm just kind of getting myself into the sports media sphere at the moment, similar to yourself. Obviously, Blue Broad's helped a lot with that, but then I've ventured off into the round ball game as well, writing for Stats Insider, and now the Inner Sanctum as well, which is good fun. Enjoying it. So yeah, hopefully just trying to pursue that as best as possible.
In terms of your experience with the club, obviously pretty similar in age. Just tell me about your sort of growing up with the club, how you got in love with it, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I think as most people, it's your father or your family even who dictate who you support. So I had no choice. My dad, big Carlton supporter growing up. Me and my brother had no choice. So it was ingrained at a young age to go for the Blues. So thanks, Dad. But yeah, probably my first early memory is probably I'm born in 2004, so I don't really remember that 2005-06 period where we were really bad. And then we started getting Murphy and Gibbs and Cruz in the draft. But probably first memory is 2009 elimination final against Brisbane. Yeah. That heartbreak. I think it set the trend for the years to come, I reckon, that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that one, but I remember the 2010 one a bit more. Funnily
enough, I don't actually remember that much.
Yeah, it was a weird game back at Homebush back in the day. Favourite player in your time?
Early on it was Judd, because you can't go past it. Just when it was Judd and Betts, but I'll speak on Judd briefly. As a kid, you don't really understand the game. You just kind of understand the players and the aura that they bring. And whenever Judd got the ball, something was going to happen. And similar with Betts, someone I'm not that big in stature, especially as a kid. I was always very small. So seeing Betts, this little forward pocket, small forward running around, kicking goals and dominating games, it gave me a bit of hope. I don't know what for, but it gave me some form of inspiration. And I really found an attachment to him pretty early.
Well, on Eddie Betts, a little bit of news from the club that Corey Durden to take over his number. Thoughts on that?
I think it's beautiful, to be honest. I love it. I think
it is great.
It's high hopes, high expectations, but I think Durd's in the brief 2-3 games I think we saw from him last year. I think we've seen that he's got tools. He's got it in the kit bag. It's really bad.
He's real good. Last one. Favorite footy memory of your time.
Favorite footy memory. I think it's hard to go past it. Sweet. I think the 2013 round 23 against Port Adelaide, and then going to that elimination final. I think that it was magical. That's funnily enough, the round 23 game is probably the game that I go back and watch the most, especially the last quarter. But
the last quarter was pretty good.
And then shout out to Jack Newnes after the siren. That was
people. I forgot about that game till you brought it up. Honestly,
I think that season ruined it. If we'd
just a weird season.
If we'd kicked on from that and made finals, I reckon that would be top 10 moments of all time for the club.
It is probably top 20-30. That was
I
don't know.
Especially considering how we probably didn't deserve to win it.
No,
the last quarter was shocking, and then
that was the best part about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just turn up,
just
nabbing it. That was great. All right, well, on to sort of the main talking point of the podcast. The AFL Draft last week obviously went ahead. Carlton had pick 27. It was the only one they used. They passed their last couple of picks. For our first pick we picked up was Jesse Motlop. He originates from Perth, out of the Waffle, played for South Fremantle. 8 senior games at the back end of the year. averaged 9 touches, 3 marks, and 1 goal a game, which was, pretty good for a young kid, especially in the waffle, playing at the senior level. A couple of positives with Jesse Motlop. Well, firstly, Daniel Motlop, his son, his versatility with the ball, clean ball use, agility, speed. Obviously, the Motlops have a lot of that, as we've seen over the past couple of years. Negatives that sort of circulated around were his consistency and strength around the contest, which, I guess all kids around our age sort of lack that going into the senior level. And he was in Fremantle's Next Gen Academy. So, your thoughts? Was it a good pickup, basically?
I loved it. I wasn't too clued up on the draft and who else we could have picked. I saw other names float around, but my initial thought was Motlops are game winners. That was where my mind went. So if he can turn out anything like his dad or even Stephen, it's going to be exciting, especially considering we already have Durden, Honey, Owies, who are already showing sparks in a position where we've lacked ever since Betts left the first time. We've really lacked that small forward that can just change a game. I think if Motlop can kick on pretty early into his career, we could have someone special on our hands. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that pick.
Well, I think he sort of slipped a bit later in the draft. I don't think he was meant to go as late as he did, to be quite honest. I think he does fit in, but it does mean it gives a bit of a much more competitive look in that small forward line. It is definitely heating up now. So, I mean, that's a good thing. Get the most potential out of him. I think people are saying round 1, but, I don't think round 1 is really... No. I don't think so. I reckon he'll probably, considering, Harney, Durden, they sort of work their way through the ranks. I think he might take quite a bit of time. So you never know. Our next one, Dominic Akui. I don't know if that last name is said exactly right. He's a Category B rookie on next year. Came through the Northern Knights in the NAB League. He was in Carlton's Next Gen Academy. He's the first pickup from that academy. He's a student of Sudanese heritage, so that's pretty good for the Blues. Haven't had someone with Sudanese heritage for quite a long time, so I guess it's just including that multiculturalism within the club. He's a defender, tall defender, and a little bit of rucking at times. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I get. I saw Mr. Palm from Blue Broad was really hyping this kid up. I don't know a lot about him. From what I've seen, very athletic, very dynamic. Obviously going to be raw, I think, as always. I don't think it'll be a miracle if he plays any senior games this season. I don't think he will. But hopefully with the VFL, a constant VFL season this season, and with no interruptions, he can get a good string of games under his belt, really get continuity within the team and even within the club. I think that's going to be very important for him, and hopefully he can be a shrewd pickup in years to come.
Yeah, no, it is sort of one of those random pickups, and you never know where it can actually go. I guess he's sort of looking. Yeah, you're right, talking about that future, whether he finds a spot in the future. The only thing the negative I find out of the NAB League is most of those blokes are playing around, playing with kids the same age. So I don't think the development will be very quick with these sort of kids. So that's what I like about Motlop in the waffle. A lot of the interstate pickups I like a lot more, only purely for that fact that they're actually getting that senior level. Never know where it will go. On to the next sort of news coming out of the club today. Patrick Cripps' brother, Josh Cripps, and Tyrese Lou as potential supplemental selection period sign-ins. They're training with the club at the moment. Josh Cripps, obviously Patrick Cripps' younger brother. He played in the Colts waffle, which for anyone not sure, I didn't even notice till today, it's basically the under-19 version of the waffle. Just imagine it as an under-19 VFL.
Yeah.
He's a tall forward. I've heard a lot of good things, but I think the name definitely helps. I'm not sure if you've heard a lot of things. What are your thoughts?
I think, I haven't seen too much talk coming out of the club and through the media about both players, but I think it's one spot that they're competing for. Is that correct? One spot between them?
Yeah, there is one spot.
Yeah.
They got one spot left.
So I think that's good. That's going to drive both of them to really, really kick on, and hopefully whoever gets it, and I hope there's no nepotism involved with Cripps's brother. I expect the player to be picked on merit. I hope that they can just continue that drive, that enthusiasm for wanting to play for the Blues into this season and next once they get picked up.
But yeah, it's definitely a fair point. I mean, it seemed talks before the trade, Cripps was heading towards the Eagles or the Dockers at some point, and he never got picked. A bit about Tyrese Lou, came out of the Eastern Rangers, interceptor defender, a good inside midfielder. Honestly, I don't think we can talk about him too much. Have not heard about him.
No.
But you never know. I mean, I think, look, if you had to put some money, I'd probably put my money on Cripps, purely solely based off, the name. I think it would be a bit awkward around the club to let him go.
Yeah, potentially, but it's a dog eat dog world of footy business. So
it is. Next topic of discussion. The other day, the AFLW fixture came out that is set to commence on the 9th of January against Collingwood, well, at least for the Blues. This year, there are no night games at Princes Park due to the redevelopment. The lights aren't good enough for night games, which may actually promote bigger crowds, honestly, because I think it's not in the most convenient area of that ground. So in terms of it might help a lot. They've got 5 home games and 5 away games this year. There was an interesting statistic put out by the Carlton Cheer Squad that we have had 20 home games and 26, I think, away games since the start of the whole competition. So it's been a bit interesting. Yeah. But I mean, with 10 games, you can't really split it. Just a quick overview of the teams: Collingwood, Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, North Melbourne, Adelaide, Fremantle, St Kilda, GWS, Gold Coast and Melbourne. I think from memory we're playing the top 7 teams this year from last season. So that is quite a tough fixture with a young group. I don't know. I've got a bit of optimism, sort of like a bit of a younger group in terms of recent history. At least they've started the 18s for the girls, so I think there's a bit more consistency with the level of football that's coming up. I don't know. What are your thoughts in terms of this year?
I think it's very typical of the AFL to have Carlton getting the worst ratio of home and away games throughout the season, or throughout the seasons even. But I think after the relatively disappointing and underwhelming season last year, obviously it was unlucky. We lost a fair few games by within a kick. Hopefully we can find that. I know, granted, a younger list, a lot of big name exits, but with Darcy Vescio playing the footy that she is, hopefully we can find that form that potentially should have won us the flag in 2020 before the season got shut down. So, hopefully this young list can find something and really kick on, because it's going to be exciting. Hopefully the girls can do something the boys can't for once. Yeah,
well, it will. Hopefully a lot of people can get down. There will be a full AFLW preview coming to the channel before round 1. So stay around for that later on in the new year. Sort of moving on to the AFL fixture. Obviously, round 1 was released the other day. When this is released, the full fixture is most likely to have been released. Richmond at home, nothing special. Sort of my question to you, what do you expect in terms of the fixture? Usually we do get screwed over for little bits of time, but I think this year you can't really make those excuses anymore. And what I've heard is Melbourne round 2. So what would you think of that?
Love it. Oh, you got to be the best. You got to beat. To be the best, you got to beat the best.
That is true.
We haven't beaten the best for a while, so.
My thing with it is that until you beat Richmond, they're not going anywhere. No matter what the margin be, whether it be 2 points or 50 points, I just don't mentally it would absolutely just drain them straight away.
It's that game's a measuring stick. We haven't beaten them in that game since 2012. So it's like a monkey on our backs. I've always said the year that we beat Richmond round 1, is the year that we can finally say, all right, we've progressed, because
it will turn around.
Yeah. I think it's one of those games where, like, I know there's obviously the Wednesday night game beforehand, which I think is ridiculous, but anyway. So it's granted it's not the first game of the season, but it's still probably the blockbuster game. I know Richmond aren't the team that they were. They obviously didn't make finals last year, but they're still going to be hungry. They're still going to be roaring. And if we knock them off, I think as a fan base, we can turn around and say, yeah, we've made significant progress in this off-season, and hopefully that kicks on the season for bigger and better things.
Yep, kind of. You couldn't have said it better, honestly. It's actually so straightforward, and sadly, it just has not. I mean, I know they've been like the powerhouse, and it's obviously hard to beat them with the team we've had. But even last year, I think they could have done it. Could have been a completely different season. In terms of like expectations, benchmarks. Obviously, we got to halfway this year, and you know what happened. Everyone knows what happened halfway. What are your expectations? I mean, do you set benchmarks and say, okay, look, by round 6, I want to be 3-3, I want to be 4-2?
I think you have to. I think you have to an extent, because obviously footy is a wins. It's a results-based business.
Yeah.
So and now we're in a position in the rebuild where wins and losses matter. Like we can't afford to be 1-5 or 2-4. But say, oh, we're playing good footy. Like, that's not good enough anymore. We need wins. Yeah. And for like a reasonable expectation, I think we need to maintain a positive ratio for wins and losses from about round 6 or 5. I think if we can just stay in that positive, I'm not saying like let's go 15-4 or whatever, and like let's win 16 games this season. But if we can maintain that positive ratio and not get hit with 2, 3, 4 losses in a row, I think that not only shows a better ability of the list, but it just shows maturity. That when the chips are down, if say we lose 2 in a row, that they can find their heads, they can rebound, and they can win that third game to cut that streak off dead. So I think wins and losses are a big part of of evaluating a team's performance. So I think it's fair to set like reasonable benchmarks at certain points throughout the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of look, I can see it two ways as well, because even if you go to the Prem in England and it's like win your home games, you turn up every week, you have a home game, you win your home games. I know it's a bit different when a lot of the same teams play at the same ground, but something as simple as that, to have an expectation. And then even if you did that and, you end up 11-11 and you still have a good chance.
Yeah.
So I think something as simple as that, but I think by that midway by, I reckon if they're not at a 0.5, I think there'll be a bit of concern, bit of concerns running around the club.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, what are you expecting round 1 from a Voss side? Because I'm not, I can't figure it out at this point. I'm not sure what I'm looking to expect.
I just want to see hunger. I just want to go to the game and see 22 blokes die for 4 points. Like, because in the old, obviously not literally, but not literally, but I want to see that head over the ball, going back into contests. I want to see that hunger to win, because we've been very flaky over the past decade, really. Like, we've been an easy pushover. So teams come up against Carlton and think, we're going to win. Like, it's an easy win type of thing. Regardless of how good we have been or how poor we've been, that's always a mentality. We need to turn that into, oh, God, we're versing Carlton. They're going to bring it every single week, regardless of injuries, suspensions, poor form. They're going to bring it. That's what I want to see. I just want to see hunger, like, from the very first bounce.
In terms of game you're most looking forward to coming into the off-season?
Any Collingwood game.
Collingwood game.
Andy Collins, yeah. I want to win that so bad. It's just
I'm fearful of a round 2 repeat. Like really.
I don't think it's gonna.
I hope not.
I can't see a world where they do that again.
I don't think so, but
I think the second game we played against them last year was good. It was obviously a fantastic game, especially the second half. But no fans being there it didn't sit the same.
Yeah.
So I think with a full MCG, if we can replicate that, then that'll be special.
Well, look, can only hope. But no, I don't know about you, but I can't go into games anymore. I mean, I sort of lost it like years ago when that losing, like it's ingrained now. I really can never go into a game thinking we're going to win anymore.
It's that thing in the back of your mind that's just dreading going every single week. But and you get brainwashed. Like whenever we do win, you think we're back. Yeah, but then you go the next week and we get pumped by 10 goals. It's like,
that's awful. All right, well, sort of next topic of discussion. Obviously, we are very close, similar in age. We've sort of experienced the game in a very different way to a lot of other people have. Obviously, we've grown up basically in that social media age where, people get influenced by it every single day. And now, now the younger generation is coming in where we have quite a young side. I just want to hear your perspective in terms of we've got quite a young group. How does that group gel together on a day-to-day basis, especially with the pressure they've had on the off-season, especially the pressure, last season basically. How does that group deal with it? Do they have this new bond that you think is a lot different to much of the older teams where you look at now your Richmonds? Yes, they've sort of grown up together, won those premierships, but this group hasn't won a premiership. They've grown up. They've come through the ranks to be where they are. Do they have this different type of bond?
I think the bond starts from like the culture around the club, and I think if there's a positive culture around the club, then the players will gel, and you can already tell through little bits that they release. There's friendships there, and they're very tight friendships by the looks of things. And that's probably the most important thing, because if I'm playing with my mate, I don't want to see my mate lose. I don't want to see my friend go down. I'm going to fight for him, and you expect him to fight for you. Yeah. So to have that, and also because they're all similar ages, they all have the same mentality or very similar mentality in terms of backlash from media or like getting dropped. How do you deal with that? So like if Fisher gets dropped, he can go to like a Paddy Dow or like a Adam Chera and say, hey, how did you deal with this? Or something like that. Or if, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but if someone gets a big injury, you can turn to your mate and say, hey, like, can you help me? That bond will drive the play. Like, it will help them a lot because of how tight they are, or how tight they seem anyway. And I think now, especially because of the like Betts, Murphy, Casbolt, Jones all leaving, I think the younger players are going to have to mature very quickly. Like you're going to have to see players like Dow, Fisher, even Mackay really like play years above their age in terms of the way they conduct themselves.
Well, I mean, in terms of that older age, and that's where I like even the board. We've got quite an older board, but that's what you'd expect at most footy clubs, and that's where I think is there a bit of discrepancy between what the board has in mind and what the playing group has in mind, because obviously, as much as they are adapting to that social media like influence, connectedness, do you think they really relate with most of these players?
I think it's a good question. I think from what I've seen with Brian Cook, I feel like he's I'll just speak on Brian Cook quickly. From what I've seen in the media, or like what I've seen coming out of the club, he seems like a very socially aware person. So he understands the trends in terms of social media and how players react. And I think that that will stem down to Voss and the coaching staff and the rest of the board. Because if he's at the top and he's showing that adaptability in terms of moving with the times, then it will transcend down. And I think Voss, being a relatively young coach, like he only retired how many years ago, right?
Yeah.
I think that helps a hell of a lot in terms of
yeah.
connecting to the players, because I think we've learned with getting someone like Moldhouse with a list that I won't touch on him too big, but with the list that he had, you can tell he didn't connect, and players have come out and said he did not know how to manage. Yeah, he might have been good tactically, sure. I mean, if you think that, then whatever, right? But you can tell that he did not know how to manage his players at all on a personal level. And I think,
no, not at all.
Yeah, I think Brian Cook has shown that he can use his social skills and breed that into the rest of the board and into the coaching staff, which will help the players.
On a different level, captaincy, sort of, my theory on this is that a defender should get it, no matter the sporting code, really, because they're always seen in the field and basically everything, compared to a Cripps where, like, I'm sure he's a good leader. I'm sure he's got the assets to withhold that role, but at the end of the day, he's a guy that's always in the contest, always he's looking for that ball. Because you got someone like a Weeders who's constantly surveying the whole ground. Yep. What's your opinion on that? Well, and co-captains or a captain?
A captain, if I had to pick. I think, I agree by and large when a defender should get it. I think if you look at the best captains over the years, they're more often than not defenders or players who play behind the ball.
Yeah.
And I love Cripps, and I think he'll kick on this season, but I just don't think he's captain material. Like, it's hard to say because obviously I'm not in the change rooms before and after games. I'm not, like, I don't know, but someone like a Weeders, who I feel like Cripps has lost his commanding presence over the last 2 years. When Weeders plays and you just watch him, he commands that back line. He dominates every forward pretty much. He only got beaten once last season. And he just has this strut and this aura, which is like, I'm a captain, I'm a leader, you listen to me and we're going to go places type of thing. But the Carlton captaincy just has this curse on it, which I'm reluctant to give it to Weeders. But I feel like he might be able to break that, because I think it's kind of like a thing of Cripps got the captaincy and his form just started to decline a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously Doc that poor guy's it's really unfortunate what's happened to him, so we can't really judge him too much on that. And when he played last season and this season, he wasn't his All-Australian form, but he was still very good. You can tell that he did crucial things in big moments as a leader. So I think one captain and Jacob Wiedering should be the heir to the throne of whoever or whenever that decides to hand the captaincy down. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess with the whole, the transformation of the club, I think like Cripps is a bit fatigued in that role. I mean, he went through that captaincy role in that period where we were getting absolutely slammed, on and off field. So I think that would actually benefit a change.
I think if you lift the workload off Cripps, he will, because the one thing that we always say about Cripps is that he tries to do too much.
Yeah.
If you relieve him of the captaincy, give him help in the midfield, which we have done, then he can focus on being that contested pressure beast that we saw in 2018, 2017. And then that, in turn, helps the likes of Walsh, Chera, Williams, Dow, who can then bounce off that and use that energy that he cultivates to kick on their games.
A little bit of a different one in terms of, I talked about this with Terry last week around sort of how success is perceived around this club, more the football nature, but obviously you're like me, we're both into, the round ball game. How do you think, do you reckon these blokes in the AFL look towards these different sporting codes? I'd assume, NBA is probably a big one as well.
Yep.
Do you reckon there's quite a lot of similarities with success, how you can transfer that from one code to another?
I think, yeah, because it's all sport and it's all competitive. So I think you can. I don't necessarily think it's as like you can take the formula from soccer and put it into footy, or basketball and put it into footy. But I think they will look at, say for basketball, you look at the likes of LeBron James and Kevin Durant, who are these serial winners, right?
Yeah.
And even like Kobe Bryant, who was serial winners. And you look at what they stand for, their principles, and their motivations and drives for success, and then you can take that and bring it to our game, because it's a formula on a base level that works. And even on a team level, coaching staff and the board can look to other serial winners in higher up positions of clubs from other sports, and take that and learn from it and build from it and adjust it to our game. So I think it's you can take the base formula from other sports for success and bring it to ours. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of that success, obviously, with that younger group, we don't have a lot of it anymore in terms of experienced, successful players. Does that become a problem after all? Obviously, last year you sort of saw once the older guys lose their cool, they, structurally they fall apart. The younger guys have no clue. Now we're losing some of those older guys. Yeah. Will that become a problem at some points?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think, and fans are going to have to expect that.
Yeah.
I think that, and it's going to suck, but our best is going to be better. Our worst is also going to be better in terms of we won't get smashed by North and Gold Coast and this type of thing.
Yeah.
But those drastic changes in performance week on week will happen. I don't think it should happen to the extent where we lose to Gold Coast, smash St Kilda, and then lose to North or whatever. I don't think it should happen. I don't think it will happen like that. But there will be times where one week we beat a team by 10 goals, and then the next week we lose, because our list it's gotten younger. We've gotten further into our rebuild. We're pretty much at the end of our rebuild, and our list has gotten younger and less experienced. Yeah. So naturally, that naivety will creep in. There will be a little bit of complacency. I hope it's not that profound, but there will be. Yeah. It's just the nature of the beast. There will be that level of invincibility, especially if we do get on a 2, 3, 4 game winning streak, which will get humbled. We will get humbled at various stages throughout the season. And I think we have to, as I think the players and as fans, we have to take it on the chin and realise, yes, we're 7 years or whatever into the rebuild, but we've lost 3. We have one player over 30 in our list.
Is this at one? Is that only one now?
Ed Kerno.
Oh, really?
So it's and what? You have Cripps, Doc, who I don't expect, there's no expectation on him.
Yeah.
I can't even think, Nick Newman's of a prime age, 27.
Yeah.
We only have a handful of players who are in that 25 to 28 bracket. The rest are 24, 23, 22. So it's you can't expect this mentality monster team who will just go out and win and play at the same level every single week. You can't expect that. Yeah. And it's going to suck, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. In terms of players, who takes the next step for you next season?
On the Blue or Broad show, I said that Mitch McGovern will make the All-Australian team, or will make the All-Australian 40 as defender. I'll give you another one. I reckon. See, I'm Lockie Plowman, right?
Yeah.
I like him as a player. I think, yes, he has brain fades, and yes, he can do dumb things. But I think as a small defender who can play tall, I think he's serviceable.
Yeah.
I think this season he will become not an All-Australian by any means, but he will become a good starting 22 defender who fans will turn around and think, yeah, all right, we were wrong about him. He's a good defender. And he will beat the likes of Liam Ryan and all these gun small forwards. He will beat them in like their one-on-one contest.
Well, I think with Lockie Plowman, I think there's two sides of football. There's your football smarts and your football skills. I think where people fall down with Plowman is the skill side sometimes with those brain fades, which I reckon if you touch them up and he's got the smarts.
It's coachable.
And that's why I could live with him having one or two average games because he does have it in him.
Yeah.
It's of course he's going to cop it if he's got a couple of fades, but I agree with what you're saying there. In terms of Dow and O'Brien, these are the two that obviously got drafted quite high. Do you reckon last year for results and then move on? Yeah.
I think O'Brien, it's his last year. And I genuinely think O'Brien has the last 6 months. I think if he doesn't crack into... I don't think he'll start round one, but if he doesn't at least push... If he's not best on in the VFL for a good portion of his time there, and if he doesn't crack into the side, I think the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
I think Dow, yes, but to a lesser extent because he showed last year that he has good footy in him. Like, he showed his explosiveness, his instinctive nature around the contest is still very good. So I think he has a higher... I don't know how to word this, but he is more likely to succeed and he's more likely to stay on than O'Brien.
Yep.
But I really hope Lockie O'Brien stays on, and I hope he kicks on this season because he's one of the very few players delivering the ball inside 50 who I think will hit a chest 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that is true. Sort of last bit, who they brought in, Chera, Hewitt, all good, all happy with that?
All happy. Lewis Young, it's your time. I think.
Lewis Young, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's the one. I reckon they'll do too. I reckon Mitch McGovern and Lewis Young will play a lot more time in defensively this season, especially because Caleb Marchbank, unknown time on his return, you'd think, and Lockie Plowman can't really play tall, so you'd think, and you'd think that the versatility of McGovern to go forward as well, will, especially if they make him a defender, having the ability for him to go forward is a big plus. And I think Lewis Young is the natural replacement for Liam Jones.
Yeah.
So I think Hewitt and Chera, I think Hewitt will be the Lockie Fogarty of this season. I think he will be not like the unsung pickup who just does his job week in, week out. I think he's the exact player we needed. That defensive, no nonsense, head over the pill, contested midfielder. And I think Chera's the Rolls Royce who, when he's on, it's something special. So hopefully he can deliver more often than not.
And lastly, next season ahead, your expectation, and I want one big call on the team itself.
One big call. Okay. I think our expectation is finals.
Yep.
And if not finals, if we miss out on finals, it has to be on percentage or by a game or by 2 points or whatever. One big call, I reckon. The Carlton Football Club will not lose a game to Richmond, Essendon, or Collingwood this season.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I hope that's right. I'll put my neck on the line, but
that would most likely, be about 5 or 6 games, assuming they play at least.
Yeah.
Never know. But that is a pretty big call.
Very big call.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. It's been a great chat. Hope everyone's enjoyed. Will be one more episode next week with another special guest, and then a bit of a break until the new year where we'll preview the AFLW. Until then, have a great holiday season and go the Blues.
Go the Blues.